Well, shalom, everybody. And listen, I am so excited to be coming to you and sharing with you in this video blog as I promised. I know you didn't think you'd get it in a video, but listen, I wanted to share with you 7 ways that you can really easily increase your willpower. So many of you were on my call this morning, our empowerment call, and we talked about how valuable the skill set of developing your willpower and your self-discipline is. And so because, due to the brevity of time, I didn't have time to really share with you the specifics on how to go about increasing your willpower. So I really want to, help you understand that today, because in general, most people have an overly positive vision. They have a vision is pretty, not easy to define. But once you've established vision, then you really have the direction to where you're going, but that's not the guarantee of getting there. You still have to be able to develop that will as your number one skill. Most people will tell you that will take you further than skill ever will. So what I tell you is you need the skill of will. Listen, there's some things that I want to help you understand, because one of the things that go hand in hand with willpower is self-discipline. But another thing that goes hand in hand with it, they are the powerful triplets. That's willpower, self-discipline, and self-control. Because most people have a problem with self-control. Because think about, what is it that opposes our willpower more than anything? Temptation. Temptation is one of those things that is going to attack your will repeatedly over and over and over again. And ironically, it's people who really think that they have temptation beat that are the people that generally have the greatest challenge with willpower. I mean, if you think about it, one of the 3 things I told you today you need to do is you need to admit that there's a problem with your willpower. You need to analyze what you need to do to do about it. And then you need to come up with an antidote. An antidote is, what am I going to do to really begin to increase my willpower? And that's why you're here today. That's why you took the time to do what others did not do. And that's to email me and say, you know what? I really want to know, what are the 7 ways that I could do, what do I need to do to increase my willpower? All right. So let's talk about it. All right. Key number 1, write this down. Key number 1 is habits. Habits are your magic bullet. They are your secret weapon. Everyone wants a secret weapon, one pill that will fix everything. The closest thing that I could think of that will begin to immediately address your willpower is working on your daily habits. And I know daily habits can get boring. They can get redundant. They can get so routine that it almost seems like you're doing a lot, but you're not experiencing a lot in return. And it's kind of like I said, if you watch my Facebook video today when I was coming back from the gym, that you got to put in hard work and dedication, but you also got to be patient with the process, because the work is going to seem hard and the results are going to seem small, but the results are happening over time, because just like with anything else, we didn't mess this up overnight. So we're certainly not going to fix it overnight. But this is where you begin addressing your number 1 challenge, is your willpower, by working on your habits. You've got to begin to develop habits that matter. Habits will begin to set in place your daily disciplines and get you to the place where you can begin to do things that you never thought you could do and achieve things you never thought you could achieve. All right. Number 2, not only are your habits, you need to address habits, but you need to really start focusing on getting things done early. One of the common denominators of people who have willpower issues is they are quintessential procrastinators. They procrastinate and they brag about it. I'm a procrastinator. And, I like working better under pressure. It takes me to the end to get something right. And the problem is that they're dealing with fruit issues again and not root issues. The root of the problem is that there is a will problem. There's a willpower problem. And to, begin to overcome that, you've got to start beating things by doing things early. My grandfather used to have a saying, don't meet me there, beat me there. And he says to get there on time is to arrive there late. So you've got to really start, having the self-control and the self-discipline to get there to do things early and to get things done early, because it's going to be so important. The longer people, wait, the longer that the closer you get to something, the more pressure mounts, and all of the reasons start to compound on why you need to not do something or why you need to quit something, when what you need to really do is just concentrate yourself on getting things done early. How can I do that? Well, start scheduling it early. If you got to do it, have it done by the 9th, schedule it by the 5th. That way you're going to get it done on time, because you're going to get it done early. And if there are any little things that need tweaking or fixing or any nuances that come up along the way, you'll be able to overcome them, because you'll have time now to address some of the things that are going on that may need addressing. All right. The third thing that you can do to improve your willpower is improve willpower by not using willpower. You say, well, what do you mean by that? See, there's a productivity guru named Tim Ferriss who says that willpower is overrated, and we have a limited amount of it. So relying on it all the time is a bad idea. And what I mean by that is that your disciplines and your habits and your behavior is automatic. So instead of trusting your will when you know you can't trust your will, for example, you have a person that says, well, you know what? I can quit smoking anytime I want, right? They say they have the willpower to do it. The first problem is they don't want to admit that they have a willpower issue. So they rely on their willpower to do it by doing what? Watch this. They'll put themselves in the same room with smokers, in the same environment, in the same place. Addicts do the same thing. And they think their willpower is going to get it to them, get them through it, when they're relying on willpower, when what they need is the discipline not to put yourself in specific predicaments. Don't put yourself in a predicament where you're going to be late getting it done and saying, I know I'll get it done because, I'm just better under pressure, or I know I can quit at any time. Or don't put yourself around a bunch of junk food if you have a junk food problem, or buy sweets in your home and fill your refrigerator with all of the stuff that you know is bad for you and say, I have the willpower to resist. So don't willpower can be overrated. You can improve your willpower by not relying on your willpower, but relying on your behavior, your pre-planning, your, making sure your environment matches your skill of your will at that particular point in your life. All right. Here's number 4. It's going to seem like an oxymoron, I know, but use willpower to build willpower. I know. I just told you not to use willpower, and willpower can be overrated, but you've got to use willpower to build willpower. In other words, willpower is almost like building a muscle. When you use it too much, it gives out. When you use it too little, it doesn't get stronger. So you have got to use your willpower by, again, using those 3 things that I told you about. Admitting that there's an issue, analyzing what you can do to change it, which we're doing that right now. And then, coming up with an antidote. You've got to know what your weaknesses are and know your strengths. The Epicureans had a saying, know thyself. You have got to know yourself if you're going to rediscover your great strength of willpower and being able to put it to work. Here's another one, number 5. All right. This seems like a fundamental thing. It seems like a given. Let me get a little water here. The willpower, drinking water. It's a powerful tool. It seems like it's a given, but here's what you got to do. You got to eat right and you got to sleep right. When you are tired, you're going to make rush judgment decisions. Think about when you're hungry for a second. Let's talk about eating right. Think about when you're hungry. Think about all of the side effects that go along with hunger, headaches and agitation and orneriness and all of these various things that go along with hunger, right? And so when you're really hungry, here's a point. They say don't ever go grocery shopping before you've eaten. Why? Because your willpower is not going to be strong enough to resist the pull of what your eyes are seeing. You ever heard that your eyes are bigger than your stomach? When you put yourself in the predicament to fail by going in a grocery store hungry, your eyes start making selections of stuff you don't need versus things that you do need. So you've got to eat right, because even when you eat wrong, you're sluggish, When you're sluggish, when you're tired, you make desperate decisions. Confucius says that exhaustion will turn a hero into a coward. And what I mean by that is when you're exhausted because you haven't slept right and you're running off the wrong type of fuel because you're not eating right, you tend to make more desperate emotional decisions because most people, quite frankly, are emotional eaters. That's why we love the certain smell of certain foods around Christmas and Thanksgiving time, because it reminds us of such emotions that we experience during those moments in our lives. There's certain things that Big Mama and Mud and them and Grandmama and them used to cook that puts memories in our head, and it creates what's called emotional eating for us. Even people that are tend to be on the heavier side of being overweight, most of the biggest problem is that they're emotional eaters, and we eat we live to eat versus eating to live. I have that mantra on my refrigerator that I eat to live now. I don't live to eat. And so because of that, I start to make better choices now because I'm not eating with my emotions, all right? And you got to understand that when you're not getting enough rest and you're not eating properly, you're putting yourself in a position where your emotions devoid themselves of willpower. So you put your hands on. That's why fast food restaurants are so popular. They're fast because you have not planned to eat right. So you all of a sudden make this abrupt, irrational, emotional decision. You run through the drive-through and you look with your eyes. They got pictures up there. Why are the pictures up there? Because they're tapping your emotions. They're banking on the fact that you're going to eat emotionally. And so they ask you, would you get a dessert with that? That's called an upsell. The reason they're upselling you is because you're making emotional decisions. And here's the problem. You're conditioning your mind to make perpetuitous emotional decisions. Just over and over and over again, we're making fast food restaurant decisions in our relationships, on our jobs, in everything that we do. We make these emotional decisions. We'll either make them out of fear, we'll make them out of frustration, failure, fatigue. We make these emotional decisions, and you've got to devoid yourself of that. You've got to release yourself and rescue yourself from making emotional decisions. And one of the ways of doing that, believe it or not, is just eating properly, getting the right foods for fuel, and getting enough rest at night. If you didn't get it all done today, guess what? If it's God's will, tomorrow is another day, and you get to start it all over again, all right? Number 6, procrastination can actually improve willpower when it's used properly. What? You just said procrastination is birthed out of willpower. I know, I get it. But here's what you got to understand. When it's used properly, I said, that was the defining point. Procrastination when it's used properly. In other words, you don't want to take forever to make good, disciplined, solid decisions, but you also don't want to make irrational, impromptu decisions because you don't have the skill of procrastination. Some people allow procrastination to go overboard to where it becomes your enemy. Anything that is done excessively indulgently becomes your enemy. Think about food. Food is not your enemy. Overeating is. All right? Think about that for a minute. Food is not the enemy. Overeating is. The Bible says a little wine is good for the stomach. So wine is not the enemy. Alcoholism is. Over drinking is. Anything that we do with excessive indulgence can turn from friend to foe extremely fast. Procrastination is one of those things that can be your friend or it can become your foe, all right? So you want to understand how to properly use the skill set of procrastination by learning that delays are not denials, and some delays are healthy for your life. Some distractions are necessary for your life, and they carve out and they demand the time you need, because acid test is a time. Just like in a relationship, you want to know whether that relationship is viable, whether it's vibrant, whether it's going to be victorious and virtuous in your life. Give it time. Don't rush into committed, excessive commitments that you're not ready for because you haven't taken time to get to know one another, all right? That's one of them areas where if you could use the skill of procrastination, not as your excuse, not as your release, but use it to just pause and pace yourself toward the things that it is you need to do. Finally, number 7. Remember, if you're going to get skill of will, you've got to remember number 7. You are going to mess up, but that's okay. All right. Don't beat yourself up when you mess up. You're going to give in to temptation periodically. You're going to, but that's not a defeatist thing. It's not a losing thing. You're going to miss the mark some days. You're going to fall short. Just don't make it a habit. Don't let it become a habitual part of your personality that you fall short and it's okay. It is okay, but it's not okay.